11 hours. That's all it took for Theodore Roosevelt to lose everything that mattered. February 14th, 1884, Valentine's Day. In a mansion on West 57th Street in Manhattan, two women lie dying in separate rooms. Upstairs, his mother battles typhoid fever. Downstairs, his wife of 3 years slips away just hours after giving birth. And between them, a 25-year-old man who will never be the same. This is the day that created the Theodore Roosevelt whose face is carved into Mount Rushmore. This is the tragedy that forged an empire. Theodore Roosevelt is in Albany on February 13th, 1884, serving his second term in the New York State Assembly. He's 25 years old, ambitious, already making enemies with his refusal to accept bribes or play political games. His future seems limitless. 2 days earlier, his wife Alice gave birth to their first child, a daughter. Theodore received the telegram while on the assembly floor and celebrated with his colleagues. He planned to return home in a few days to meet his daughter and embrace his wife. Then comes the second telegram. The words are brief but devastating. Come home immediately. Both mother and wife gravely ill. Theodore's world stops. Both? How can both be ill? He abandons everything and races to catch the next train. But the journey from Albany to New York City becomes an agonizing nightmare. A massive blizzard has descended on the Northeast. Snow piles high on the tracks. Wind howls against the train cars. The train crawls forward, stopping repeatedly to clear snow from the rails. Theodore sits rigid in his seat, fists clenched. He stares out at the swirling white chaos, willing the train to move faster. He doesn't know what awaits him, but dread sits heavy in his chest, a cold weight that makes it hard to breathe. The train finally reaches Grand Central Terminal near midnight on February 14th. Valentine's Day. Theodore leaps from the car before it fully stops and runs through the station into the blizzard. He hails a carriage. The driver fights through snow-choked streets toward West 57th. Every minute feels like an hour. Theodore's mind races through possibilities. Perhaps his mother has caught influenza. Perhaps Alice has some complication from childbirth. Surely the doctors can help them. Surely this is just a scare. Surely when he arrives, he'll find them weak but recovering. The carriage finally stops outside the Roosevelt mansion. Theodore bursts through the front door. The house is too quiet. Gas lamps burn low. Shadows stretch across marble floors. His brother, Elliot, appears at the top of the stairs, his face pale and drawn. "There is a curse on this house," Elliot says, his voice breaking. "Mother is dying, and Alice is dying too." The words hit Theodore like a physical blow. The floor seems to shift beneath his feet. He grabs the banister to steady himself. Both? The word comes out as barely more than a whisper. His sister Corinne appears behind Elliot, tears streaming down her face. She nods, unable to speak. Theodore forces himself to move. He climbs the stairs, each step heavier than the last, toward the two rooms where the women he loves are slipping away. Theodore goes to his mother first. Martha Bullock Roosevelt, everyone calls her Mittie, lies in her bedroom, consumed by typhoid fever. She is only 48 years old, a Southern belle who married into New York aristocracy, beloved by all 4 of her children for her warmth and gentle spirit. Typhoid fever is brutal. It attacks with relentless high temperature, delirium, weakness that drains every ounce of strength. Mittie has been fighting it for over a week. When Theodore enters her room, she barely recognizes him. Her skin burns with fever. Her breath comes in short, labored gasps. Theodore takes his mother's hand. It's so hot it almost burns his palm. "Mother," he whispers, "I'm here. Theodore is here." Mittie's eyes flutter open. For a brief moment, clarity returns. She sees her eldest son, the one who was always so driven, so determined to make his mark on the world. She tries to speak, but the fever steals her words. Theodore holds her hand, tells her he loves her, promises everything will be all right, even though he can see that nothing will ever be all right again. At 3 a.m. on February 15th, Martha Bullock Roosevelt dies in her son's arms. The fever finally releases her. Her breathing stops. Her hand goes limp in Theodore's grip. But there is no time to grieve, because downstairs, Alice is dying too. Theodore forces himself to stand. He gently lays his mother's hand across her chest and walks out of the room like a man in a dream, moving through thick fog, everything distant and unreal. He descends the stairs to the first-floor bedroom where Alice lies unconscious. Alice Lee Roosevelt, 22 years old, his sunshine, the radiant beauty he courted relentlessly at Harvard, the woman he married just 3 years ago. She lies in the bed they shared as newlyweds, her golden hair spread across white pillows. Her face, usually so full of life and mischief, is deathly pale. Her breathing is shallow and irregular. Doctors stand around the bed, but Theodore can see in their faces that there is nothing they can do. In 1884, medical science has no cure for what is killing Alice. What everyone thought was just normal aftermath of childbirth was actually masking a far more serious condition. Alice has Bright's disease, a severe kidney ailment. Her kidneys are failing. Toxins are building in her bloodstream. Theodore dismisses the doctors. He climbs into bed beside his wife and pulls her into his arms, cradling her against his chest. She is so cold. He tries to warm her with his body heat, as if his will alone might be enough to keep her alive. He talks to her, though she cannot hear. He tells her about their daughter, how beautiful she is, how she has Alice's golden hair. He tells her about the house he is building for them in Oyster Bay. He tells her about all the years they'll have together, all the children they'll raise, all the happiness waiting for them. He begs her not to leave. For 11 hours, Theodore holds his dying wife. Dawn comes. The blizzard outside finally stops. The house falls silent except for Alice's labored breathing. Theodore whispers to her, strokes her hair, refuses to let her go. At 2 p.m. on February 15th, Alice Lee Roosevelt dies in her first son's arms. She is 22 years old. Their daughter is 3 days old. Theodore feels Alice's breath stop. He feels the last flutter of her heartbeat against his chest. For a long moment, he simply holds her, unable to accept what just happened. In the space of 11 hours, he has lost his mother and his wife. The 2 women who meant everything to him are gone. What do you think? Could you survive losing everything in 11 hours? Leave a comment with your honest answer. And if you're still watching, you're about to discover what Theodore did next, and it's almost impossible to believe. Finally, Theodore gently lays Alice back on the pillows. He smooths her golden hair one last time. Then he stands and walks to his desk like a man sleepwalking. He opens his leather-bound diary. With a hand that somehow remains steady, he draws a large X across the page for February 14th. Beneath the X, he writes 7 words in his neat and precise handwriting. "The light has gone out of my life." He closes the diary. He will never write about Alice again. What happens next reveals both the devastating depth of Theodore's grief and the iron will that will come to define his entire life. He makes decisions that seem incomprehensible, even cruel. First, he takes his newborn daughter, also named Alice after her mother, and gives her to his older sister Anna, called Bammy by the family. Theodore does not keep his baby daughter. He cannot even look at her without seeing Alice's face, without feeling unbearable pain. Then, Theodore makes a decision that will haunt his family for generations. He makes a vow. Alice Lee Roosevelt's name will never be spoken in his presence again, not by family members, not by friends, not by anyone. He burns the love letters they exchanged. He removes her photographs from the walls. He tears pages about her from his diary. Every trace of Alice must be erased, as completely as if she never existed. The only way Theodore can survive this loss is to bury it so deep that it can never touch him again. Within weeks of the double funeral, Theodore makes another shocking announcement. He's abandoning his political career. He is leaving behind his infant daughter. He is heading west to the Dakota Territory to become a rancher. In the Dakota Badlands, Theodore transforms himself. He works from dawn till dark. He hunts grizzly bears. He tracks down outlaws. He drives cattle through blizzards. When drunken cowboys mock him as Four Eyes because of his spectacles, Theodore responds with his fists, beating them until they apologize. The grief hasn't healed, it never will, but Theodore has learned to bury it